Welcome. You're listening to the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast, a podcast production of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County, Ohio. Thanks for joining us.
And welcome to our first broadcast of the new year, 2025, Dr. Ashley.
No, Happy New Year.
I'm glad you're back. I told the audience you were out, you were collecting coal, you were putting
That's
coal
terrible.
in different stockings throughout the Ashland, Stark County community. So you're back, though.
Yeah. You make me sound terrible.
No, the audience knows I'm telling the truth.
Oh, good.
So we are here in 2025, and we've got a busy year packed. So I want to let the audience know that the Mental Health and Recovery Board has several things, our events, trainings. We've got an upcoming levy come October and November that we'll talk. But it's just going to be full of, I think, a lot of exciting events, activities, and news items like we're talking about today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great year.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year.
Busy.
So we appreciate the listeners, appreciate all of you that make the time for this program. Again, here at the Mental Health and Recovery Board, we just want to let not only Ashland County residents, but anybody who might be listening to the podcast, just know about mental health and substance use resources. When we talk about mental health and substance use, what do we mean by it? And we try to cover a bunch of different angles, if you will, from the research to books to articles to where the field maybe is falling down a little bit and needs to improve. We are not shy, Dr. Ashley, about calling out our own field when we need to, because we want it to be as good as it can be to help those folks that are seeking help.
I think it's important to think critically about what we're doing and what we could do better for sure as a profession. Yeah.
Agreed. So on tap today, we have 4 recent news articles. Again, don't worry, listener. We try to link all of these stories that we're referencing today in the episode description. So don't worry about trying to jot this all down. It'll be there for you on our website, which is Ashland MHRB, and MHRB stands for Mental Health Recovery Board, ashlandmhrb.org. You can always go there. And also wherever you get your podcasts on iHeart or wherever you get it, you'll see that in the episode description. You should be able to click on the hyperlinks to the stories that Dr. Ashley and I will discuss today. So again, the first one it's a big one. It's one that will probably come up again and again as we do the podcast, Dr. Ashley, and it's entitled "The Fallacy of Modern Psychiatry: Treating Symptoms, Ignoring Causes." And this is an article that was published at the Mad in America site recently. And the reason this one is so critical and important in my mind is this idea of treating symptoms, ignoring causes, sometimes called root causes. This is something that I've seen. I'm of an age, Dr. Ashley, believe it or not, that I've seen more and more of this in my career, where we have gotten away from root causes of what's going on and just been focusing on knocking down symptoms, and that could be using psychiatric drugs or even some of the psychotherapy approaches. It's all about how can we highlight, identify symptoms that are bothering the individual and get rid of those with no real effort made to understand what is behind those symptoms. And the older I've gotten, perhaps, maybe it's a product of that, I've just recognized that the symptom approach is really short-sighted, and we need to be focused on what's behind that if we're really going to help folks make those meaningful life-changing changes.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It reminds me of, there's like a saying about people falling in the river, and people keep coming down the stream, right?
Yes.
But eventually you have to go back up and look at why they're falling in instead of just pulling them out of the stream all the time.
Absolutely.
So it kind of made me think about that saying.
Yeah. Yeah, my former boss and mentor, Mr. Steve Stone, told that story a lot. He's a great storyteller, and he explained that to folks in a very graphic way. It's like, we need to find out who's chucking these babies in the river, right? Yeah. We need to get upstream and figure out how they're getting there, not just rescuing them from the river that we see. So the quote that I liked from the piece was they mentioned that human behavior is shaped by a complex interplay of life's events, conditions, and circumstances. To truly understand a person's actions and behaviors, one must ask, what was this person exposed to? What did they experience? These questions point to a profound truth. Behavior cannot be separated from the environment in which it develops. From the safety of one's surroundings to access to proper nutrition, sleep, social stability, the circumstances of life have a lasting biochemical effect on the brain. These experiences are not merely coincidental with development, they actively shape it. So we need to know more about the person's story, and we need to ask those questions about origin story. Marvel character alert, Dr. Ashley. We need an origin story. We need to go to the front of the book. Sometimes we talk about person coming into the office and we're picking up that book, that life story right in the middle. And we can't act as if we know that person or that story, if you will, by picking it up in the middle. We need to go back and understand and ask the questions that will give us a better understanding of how they grew up. What did they experience? What did they see, hear, touch, taste, smell, etc.? Who were the vital people that were in their life or who were not in their life? So we need to get back to some of the basics.
Yeah. So looking at the person and not jumping to what is wrong with you. We talk about this a lot here at the board. It's not what is wrong with this person innately, but what has happened to them instead. And I think that can shape the way that we approach treatment with people, how we help people.
Yeah, agreed. Right? And those we often talk about here at the board, the ACE score, the Adverse Childhood Experiences score. And again, that's only part of the story, but we need to ask about what's happened to you, as you said, Dr. Ashley. And we got to make sure we're looking at all those dimensions: biological, social, environmental, spiritual, circumstantial evidence, and events. We just need to look at the whole person and not reduce things down to symptoms.
What do you think is the outcome of that? How does it help us to look at what's happened to them rather than what it might be wrong with them?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think it's much more respectful of the individual to start with. Understanding that, human beings are complex. We are not simplistic and simple. And, a 5, 15, 20-minute interview should not then lead to some kind of serious diagnosis and approach using maybe psychiatric medications, which the article talks about. I think it's much more respectful to ask those questions. It honors, I think, that person's life journey and all their experiences and reinforces to them that they're more than their symptoms. And I think it's more hopeful as an approach.
I think so too.
And, because their circumstances, we can draw out all the resiliency that everybody has to some extent and build on that versus starting from this idea that, what's broke, what's wrong, and see if we can't fix that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So, again, we need to account for the whole person, and I think this approach does that. I mean, see the person as a whole person. So, sometimes I think what can happen, whether it's intentional or not, if you just look at its symptoms, it's like those symptoms aren't part of the whole person. We need to explore and understand the whole person. All right, that's great. And our next article comes... So, sorry, before we leave that too much, get your steps in. Get a step counter. Track it, monitor it. Dr. Ashley, some people have these really fancy phones, I think, that they actually track all kinds of stuff,
phones
including
or
your
watches.
steps.
Yeah.
All right. Our next topic is what's called ecotherapy, a nature-based approach to health. And Dr. Ashley, you took the lead on this one. And this was a recent study talking about ecotherapy as a form of therapy.
Yeah, I really like this. I think it goes along well with what you're talking about with exercise and depression. Ecotherapy is a form of therapy that considers our relationship with nature as part of the healing process. It integrates nature-based healing into psychological therapy approaches, recognizing that the connection with nature can play a central role in our well-being. I personally love nature. That's healing for me, getting out and getting in touch with nature, disconnecting from my phone and all of the concerns of daily life for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I really believe that is a powerful tool. And what's really cool about it is that it's very accessible for people, for most people. And also it can be powerful in the role of healing. So
yeah, we've mentioned before about Ashland County is very rich when it comes to our county and our city parks and our all those opportunities. And again, as you say, I mean, they're accessible. I mean, they don't cost a lot to go to these parks and walk or be in nature.
So the article says that ecotherapy can help reduce stress,
Yeah.
boost mood, improve focus, attention, and memory, strengthen your immune system. We need that right this time of year.
Absolutely. Norovirus.
Yes. No, yeah, watch out for that. And also helps promote physical health. So
Love it.
Yeah.
And again, so this, part of the reason we do these studies is so if your therapist, ask your therapist about these things.
Yeah.
Hopefully they know about it already, but if not, it doesn't hurt to ask them and say, hey, what
Absolutely.
do you think about this?
yeah, how could we use this as part of what we're doing?
Yeah, the quote that jumped out at me for this one, it says, while individual approaches may vary, ecotherapy consistently revolves around shared principles that emphasize human-nature connection, holistic well-being, and a mutually caring relationship with the environment. So, again, I don't want to sound like too tree hugger-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word, Dr. Ashley.
Nothing wrong with tree huggers.
I know this isn't for everybody, but I think you're right. Being able to get out, reminding all of us that, we're more than just our offices and in our
Yeah.
homes, and that nature really can play I think, a therapeutic role,
Yeah.
and just a sense of well-being. And we don't talk about this. There's been some books written, this concept of awe, AWE, and nature can do that, whether that's a sunset, sunrise, it's clouds, it's, some people go on the trips, they see some of the great things like Grand Canyons and mountains. And there is something about awe, and nature really can provide that in and of itself, I think, can be relaxing and curative.
I think so too, yeah. And also the article mentioned getting out, disconnecting from your screens, right? Because we're
yeah.
attached to our screens. But they say disconnect from your screens, reconnect with yourself. And when you're out in nature, focusing on your senses, so engaging each of your senses while you're out there.
Yeah.
There's something, I think, meditative about that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's why it kind of helps reconnect with yourself.
Excellent. Well, this last piece is it's an important one. The subject is important in the sense that we're talking about overdose deaths, and the title of the article is "Overdose Deaths in the United States Fell 17% in a recent one-year period," according to the CDC. As we've talked about before on this program, the opioid issue, particularly fentanyl and some of the other very, very lethal opioids, synthetic opioids that are prevalent, unfortunately, they've caused drug overdose deaths of over 100,000 in several years. But we have just recently seen that fall by 17% between July 2023 and July 2024. So that is welcome news, Dr. Ashley.
Yes.
We hope that continues. But, there's a lot of things. I think the question I get is, so what contributes to that? And
Right.
the article touches on some of those things. That one came out of CBS News.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, and again, you jump in, but I think the things here locally that we've been doing, that we've heard and we believe, based on reports of our partners that are making a difference, first has been the use of Narcan, or naloxone it's called. And again, this is the opioid drug reversal medication that's we're trying to make available throughout the county in a bunch of different places. Point of contact for getting your Narcan, if you don't have it, is Akeda, one of our partner agencies. And again, these truly are life-saving, this medication. Another one that maybe folks don't know about is what's called the Quick Response Team. And again, this is a collaborative effort between Akeda and law enforcement, where if someone has an overdose and they survive, obviously they're brought back, they survive, what happens is the Quick Response Team will respond to their home location or wherever they're living and follow up with them to say, one, are you getting services? If not, how can we help you get into services? They bring out information. They just want to connect with the person and basically say, to some extent, look, you almost died.
Yeah.
Let's see this as a wake-up call, the ultimate wake-up call, to see if we can't get you some help so that never happens again.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing about naloxone. So in the article, it said we cannot treat dead people. right?
Absolutely.
So we're bringing people back so that they can get that opportunity
That's
to
right.
get treatment, and the quick response team helps us engage them.
Yeah, absolutely. And people ask about the treatment for opioid addiction. Again, we've been saying for some years, it's called medication-assisted treatment. It is an evidence-based approach. Akeda has been doing that for some years. Appleseed does it as well. It basically, the therapy is aided by the use of medications that keep the person from going into withdrawal and participating in drug-seeking behavior. Because it's very difficult to be in any kind of productive therapy if you're actively in withdrawal. So the medication helps prevent that and allows the person to be present and benefit by treatment. And that approach we've seen really good success at Akeda. So that's another part of why the deaths are falling.
Yeah, I think one of the things along with that, community education, just letting people know, one, where to get it, that it's free at a lot of places. It's available over the counter. You have to pay for it then, obviously. And then also educating that it's literally just a nasal spray, so it's not this scary medication, or it's not hard to use, right? Removing those barriers and educating people so they know they can use Narcan. So
maybe last but not least would be, maybe people don't think of this, but I do, about why the rates might be falling. Jail-based services and good linkage services when the person leaves the jail. We are excited about the robustness of our jail-based services here in Ashland County. So if an individual does get in trouble, ends up at our jail and is struggling with opioid or any kind of substance use, services down there are readily available. They can get services, and that might be, for that particular person, might be the best opportunity to really get serious about their substance use.
Absolutely.
And, the treatment they get down there then can be extended once they're released. So we have linkage coordinators at the jail. So as the person has started to work on their substance use, they can get hooked up before they even leave with outpatient treatment and services, so that hopefully, because we know there's a gap there, Dr. Ashley, if there is a gap between when they are released and when they follow up, the longer that gap, the more risky it is for that person to relapse.
Right. Yeah, people may not know that when individuals are released from jail or prison, that's kind of a risky period of time for them because they've not used for a period of time. Then they may use the amount that they were using before, and now they don't have the same tolerance, so it becomes very dangerous. They may overdose, and a lot of people die during that stage.
That's a great point. I appreciate you bringing that up. So the better we do, hopefully, listeners, you can understand those four things. We think if we do those well, that is contributing to this reduction of 17% in the overdose deaths in the country. Dr. Ashley, I hope that continues to fall, and I hope it falls precipitously both in Ashland County and throughout the United States. And I'm hopeful that with these strategies and other strategies that we haven't touched on, we'll see that happen.
Absolutely. I'm hopeful too. They did mention it's still over 100,000 deaths, right? So it's still a significant issue that we have to keep pushing on.
Absolutely.
But it is a hopeful article.
Well, speaking of hopeful, all of these articles hopefully have been hopeful for the new year, Dr. Ashley. So I am excited to be doing these podcasts with you throughout the year. We've got, like I said, a large number of events and activities planned. So audience, I just ask you stick with Dr. Ashley and I as we continue to bring you these podcasts. Hopefully you find them helpful. If you do reach out and contact us either through the website or by calling us at 419-281-3139. If you don't find them of any use, please don't contact us. Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast. The podcast is a production of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County, Ohio. You can reach the board by calling 419-281-3139. Please remember that the board funds a local 24/7 crisis line through Appleseed Community Mental Health Center. It can be reached by calling 419-289-6111. That's 419-289-6111. Until next time, please join us in Keeping Ashland Healthy.